college, you really do use that like on the job. They always think that math is like the most important thing in engineering. I 100% disagree. Like, we would get points marked off if like a comma was missing. He was not playing with us. But once you're really out of college, you can kind of see just how much like the work you did in your classes, like in your math classes and like all that stuff, like it was really like, what the heck did I even do this for? Hey besties! I actually have been getting a few questions about engineering life and like what to expect after college, so I want to answer those questions for you guys today. I'm getting ready to go to an event, so I know that this is not my usual setup, but do I actually have a usual setup? Because I feel like every time you guys see me, I'm in a different hotel. For those of you who are curious as to why I'm always in a hotel, I actually do make travel content because I love to travel, so why not make a whole page dedicated to it? I will put my travel page down here, my travel TikTok down here, so that you guys can follow me, or if you're interested in seeing some of the places that I've stayed, you can go and check that out. Today I am in downtown LA because I am going to an event with Benefit Cosmetics. And I'm super excited. Stay tuned for that vlog. But in this video, we're gonna be talking about all things engineering. Okay, so the question I got was, what do the projects look like? How do they tie with the knowledge that you've acquired while you were in school? So that is a great question. Honestly, what you do in school is not the greatest representation of what you're gonna be doing at work. So most of the classes that you take, like calculus, differential equations, fluids, like you're not gonna be like working those problems on the job. Most of the skills that I've needed for work have come from the softwares that I've learned, like AutoCAD, MicroStation, which I didn't learn in college, but I learned on the job, but definitely like AutoCAD for sure. I've used Civil 3D a couple times at work. For those of you who don't know, if this is your first time seeing me, I am in civil engineering, transportation specifically. I'm kind of drifting into water resources now. So transportation and water / drainage. Most, if not all of the work that I do comes from like the softwares that I've learned either in high school or in college. So I use Excel a lot, I use Word a lot, I use AutoCAD, I use MicroStation, I use Civil 3D, like all of those things. So that's something that's gonna be really important. When I was in college, my college didn't offer MicroStation for civil engineering majors. So I was lucky enough that a company was willing to hire me and teach me. But that's definitely something that's important. I do remember them like holding workshops and stuff at school, and I was like, I'm not going to that. It's super important if your school does not offer those classes for you to like go to workshops if they offer it, because that is some valuable knowledge, and that is something that will set you apart from like the rest of the hiring candidates. If like you're all in the same pool and none of you knows MicroStation, you know what I'm saying? The project part is kind of interesting. What prepared me most for projects was my senior design class. Actually, my senior design class and my AutoCAD class. So at my school, we learned how to do XREF. We learned how to work with XREFs, and I do that at my job as well. So that's something that if you haven't learned yet, you should. While we were working in AutoCAD, I kind of got a feel for how to read plans. My parents also do something very similar. So when I was in college, like I would kind of go to job sites with them and they would teach me how to read plans and stuff. So that was cool. And by the time I like actually got to my senior design class, I knew how to read plans. I think also in some of my electives, we might have learned how to read plans. It's been such a long time, but I definitely know that like the formatting of plans and stuff, I think that was first introduced to me maybe like my first year of engineering school in AutoCAD, and then like you kind of just progress as you go along, and then you know once you're in your senior design class, at least at my school, we started like dealing with plans and stuff. Sorry if you guys can hear sirens downstairs, hopefully you can't, but literally the door is closed and it's so loud. But yeah, so when it comes to projects, it's a little random. Like it really just depends on which contracts your company wins, which work they win. Because you could be working on anything. I've worked on rail projects, even though I'm not in rail. I've worked on bridge projects, even though I'm not in structures, because every like area Like if you're doing a project for like a bridge or something, obviously the bridge is above a road or above water. And in transportation, we're like working on roads or like bodies of water because you can still transport things through water. So even if it's a project where, you know, you're doing something on a bridge or a railway, you know, that kind of also ties into transportation. And that's one thing that I really loved about civil, is that it's very much like a team effort, you know? It's not just like one thing falls on one person or one group. Like we're all working together and we all have to coordinate together. So I have to sometimes coordinate with electrical, sometimes I coordinate with structures and stuff. And when it comes down to like submittal time and stuff, we all put our stuff together and package it up and send it to be reviewed. And those are at different stages during the project. So sometimes it'll be, you know, starting will be like obviously 0%. And then at the next deadline that we have, we'll want like 30% plans. And then once that's finished and we do QA/QC, we move forward with the design, do 60 or 65%, and then 90 or 95%, and then 100%, and that's when the project is done. That's kind of like the project process, if you will. A lot of times, like these projects take a lot of time and there are different phases that you can go through. This is gonna get interesting. I live in California, so a lot of stuff that we do needs to be up to Caltrans standards if you're working on like a Caltrans project or with Caltrans. And so we actually have to follow different standards and stuff, and there are different phases of the project. So in the initial stages, we do PAED, and then we move into like more of like a PS&E. My first job, I came in when they were in the PS&E part, which is plans, specifications, and what is the last one? Oh my goodness, I need to brush up on this. Plans, specifications, estimates. I believe it's plans, specifications, estimates. We never say the whole thing, like we just know what it means. PAED is first, then PS&E. Those are the main two areas that I've been working in. So you have like a bunch of phases that you go through. And it's gonna depend on like where you work and who you're working for, whether you're working public or private, like what you actually do. Hopefully what I'm saying is kind of making sense. I'm honestly still like very new. I've been working in the field for less than 5 years, so this is just my understanding of things based off where I am. And you know, I've kind of gotten thrown into the middle of certain projects. There's one project that I've been working on since I started working at the company that I'm working at now. And I started in the like PAED process, but when I was working at the first company that I was working at, I started in the PS&E process. So when I got to this company, I already knew like what PS&E was and everything, but I had never done anything in the PAED project, and I'm sure that they had been in like a different phase before even PAED. So you know, I haven't really had any experience with that. And like I said, everything is different, like depending on like where you work, like the standards, the rules, regulations, laws, X, Y, and Z. California don't play when it comes to, you know, like specifications and rules and regulations and stuff, because we have earthquakes here. And on a civil level, that's like something that's like really important. So we have to deal with seismic and stuff, but I'm sure you guys already know that. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So if you guys have any questions, you can feel free to continue to ask them and I can continue to make videos. I know that it's kind of hard to like understand, you know, what work is going to look like for you, and I want to make sure that like you guys have all the information you need. I know a lot of people have been DMing me and telling me like, I don't know if I want to go into engineering. I don't know if it's going to be a good fit for me. Like, I don't even really know what engineers do. And like, honestly, same, like you're so real for that, because up until the first day that I started working, like as I was driving to work, I was like, I have no idea what I'm going to be doing. And it's interesting because on the first day of work, like obviously you do like training and like onboarding stuff, like they get you set up, like you have to do OSHA training if you haven't already been certified for that, and then like you have to go through like company training. But like once I actually started working, the first thing that they had me do was work in MicroStation. I actually started learning how to place call outs, and like the manuals that they have you learn, like the MUTCD and the plans preparation manual and like all of that stuff. Is that just for California? I don't know, but like all those manuals and stuff that they like introduce you to in college, you really do use that like on the job. I remember having no idea what I was doing in college because like you're not working on like real projects or like real plans. Like you're just kind of like, you know, like doing examples and stuff. At least from my experience, I know that some colleges are like literally specifically for engineering and like y'all get to do everything. And I love that for y'all, but my college was not like that. You know, we kind of got a taste for it, but like it wasn't like, oh, like, you know, but once you're really out of college, you can kind of see just how much like the work you did in your classes, like in your math classes and like all that stuff, like it was really like, what the heck did I even do this for, you know? Work is not as difficult as school was. There are a lot of things that you're gonna learn, and the learning curve might be a little steep just depending on like, you know, your company. The company that I work at now, everybody's always been like really nice and like trying to help me learn and being patient with me, because, you know, it is a really big change going from college to now working, and it's more than just working. It's like, you know, learning how to be professional in the way that you send emails, and like even being professional in the way that like you address, you know, like your supervisors and like your team members, and like who you should address emails to if it's like a group of people, and then just so many things. Like there's so much more that you have to learn, which is why when people say, you know, math is so important and they always think that math is like the most important thing in engineering, I 100% disagree. It is definitely communication in all aspects, in all ways of the word, because literally like you're communicating with your team members, and if something goes wrong, then like everything is wrong. You have to redo it. If you don't do the plans correctly, the people who are building it are not going to build it correctly, which is why it's really important. Yeah, math and stuff is cool, but like it's really important to make sure that your technical writing skills are up to par. Because, you know, things can be said verbally, but like when things are getting tracked back to you, like you're emailing people or you're sending messages and stuff and you're communicating things, it's really important that you do so in a way that people can understand what you mean. And I had a really like stickler of a teacher in my, what class was it? I don't remember, but it was like a lab, and like he was so picky about how we would write. Like we would get points marked off if like a comma was missing. He was not playing with us, or the way that we said things or started the report. And I'm really grateful for that, because I have gotten a lot of great feedback from my supervisors talking about how I have great communication skills, and like I always get really high marks on my evaluations when it's time for like, you know, like the year-end evaluations and stuff. I could also do a video on that if you want, because I've learned a lot in that aspect too. That there's a lot of stuff that they don't teach you in college necessarily, like how to actually thrive in the work environment once you're in it. So yeah, if you guys want a video on that, leave this video a thumbs up. I gotta go because this event started 5 minutes ago, so I'll see you guys in my next video. Okay, bye.